So, hello, welcome back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. Today we're going to go through the Eternal Purpose, The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. This is actually the last one of the SLOWW top book summaries that I haven't gone through yet, and that is basically featuring a book that I do not know and probably haven't gone through a book summary of. Of course, there are things and books and stuff left like Man's Search for Meaning that I've been talking about before, and also other things, and other books that I already know, and so I at first wanna cover those. I do not personally know, because I also want to see something new and achieve something new and get something new and not go through the exact same thing over and over and over again, even though I have already done that multiple times. Like Ikigai, I already knew it, but I think from time to time, going through the same thing again makes sense. Anyway, I'm currently on a mission to read the best books on meaning and life purpose. The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren is in the top 3 and quite possibly number 1 in terms of sales. The Purpose-Driven Life had apparently sold over 30 million copies by 2007. The updated book cover now says over 34 million copies have sold, but Wikipedia claims the number is actually over 60 million. So whatever it might be, it is actually quite a bunch. Regardless of the actual number, it is a lot, so many that it's been translated into over 85 languages. I don't even know 85 languages. I'd actually like to try that, how many languages can I come up with? We have English and English. Anyway. And not only is it a top book on life purpose, but it is consistently in the top 50 books of all time. Publishers Weekly claims it's the best-selling nonfiction hard book, blah, 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 blah. Before we dive in, some quick housekeeping. Yes, I know the quick housekeeping. To skip to a specific section within this post, use the links below. And there we have a table of contents. Amazing. This is more than a book. It is a guide to a 40-day spiritual journey that will enable you to discover the answers to life's most important question: what on earth I am here for. By the end of this journey, you will know God's purpose for your life and will understand the big picture, how all the pieces of your life fit together. Having this perspective will reduce your stress, simplify your decisions, increase your satisfaction, and most important, prepare you for eternity. As I wrote this book, I often prayed that you would experience the incredible sense of hope, energy, and joy that comes from discovering what God put you on this planet to do. There's nothing quite like it. I'm excited because I know all the great things that are going to happen to you. They happened to me, and I've never been the same since I discovered the purpose of my life, which might actually be trying to teach other people to see their purpose in life. And it's getting quite meta now. Anyway. Every new generation must rediscover God's purpose for themselves. I do want to point out, since I've read it the 3rd time, I do not necessarily like covering religious topics because it is one of those few things that are really controversial in terms of it can really spark very, very easily a ton of controversy. And this may not necessarily be the thing I want to do, Actually, it is for sure not the thing that I want to do. So this is not my opinion. This is just a book. I'm just going through a book summary. I'm just reading it and I'm trying to extract all the good things out of it that I'm just willing to extract here. For this author, apparently God's played a really big role. If you're atheist or whatever, just not necessarily ignore it, but just try to see it in a way of, seeing it in an analytical way. Meaning, okay, this is what this person did, and this might be a part of an overall, quote-unquote scheme or method to do something. So maybe for you it doesn't have to be good, but something else. Or maybe you can just kind of replace it with something completely different that is having a different, different mechanisms. Let's maybe put it like this. Anyway, there is no greater... Every new generation must rediscover God's purpose for themselves, but God also adds that the older generation is responsible to pass on what they have learned, so that each generation can set its hope anew on God. And this is apparently a psalm. Okay, there is no greater epitaph, whatever this is. Let's actually look that up. An epitaph on a tombstone. Elegy, inscription, engraving, etching, legend. I see. Then that statement. Imagine it's chiseled on your tombstone that you served God's purpose in your generation. The phrase is the ultimate definition of a life well lived. You do the eternal and timeless, God's purpose, in a contemporary and timely way in your generation. That is what the purpose-driven life is all about. Neither past nor future generations can serve God's purpose in this generation. Only we can. Hope is as essential to your life as air and water. You need hope to cope. Dr. Bernie Siegel found he could predict which of his cancer patients would go into remission. I think it's actually indeed a remission, by asking, do you want to live to be 100? Those with a deep sense of life purpose answered yes, and were the ones most likely to survive. Hope comes from having a purpose. Preparing you for these two questions is the goal of this book. The first question will determine where you spend eternity. The second question will determine what you do in eternity. By the end of this book, you will be ready to answer both questions. What did you do with my son, Jesus Christ? What did you do with what I gave you? So the first one, since I've read it so incredibly bad, what did you do with my son, Jesus Christ? And the second, what did you do with what I gave you? Life without a purpose-driven life, without being italic, therefore important and emphasized. The man without a purpose is like a ship without a rudder, a waif, which is WAIF, a nothing and no man. Thomas Carlyle. Nothing matters more than knowing God's purpose for your life, and nothing can compensate for not knowing them. Not success, wealth, fame, or pleasure. Without a purpose, life is motion without meaning, activity without direction, and events without reason. Without purpose, life is trivial, petty, and pointless. The greatest tragedy is not death, but life without purpose. When Cain sinned, his guilt disconnected him from God's presence, and God said, "You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." That describes most people today, wandering through life without a purpose. Unfortunately, yes, I think it is indeed the case. Without a clear purpose, you will keep changing directions, jobs, relationships, churches, and other examples, hoping each change will settle the confusion or fill the emptiness in your heart. You think maybe this time it will be different, but it doesn't solve your real problem, a lack of focus and purpose. Well, I think this is actually pretty common in Western cultures, especially also when it comes to medicine, that most often we are trying to treat the symptoms rather than trying to look for the root cause of everything, which really pisses me off from time to time, to be honest, because if I go to see a doctor and I do have a certain problem, well, here get some medicine, here just get some information about what to do with the symptoms and how to cure them and just how to deal with them. But in the end, it is like, well, I am going to encounter this problem again in the future, probably, because I'm merely treating the symptoms but not the root cause. So trying to look for the root cause by asking several questions, probably why questions, as illustrated by many authors, maybe one particular author. Simon Sinek maybe. I don't know the book anymore. Might actually be somebody else, but asking a set of questions that leads to you figuring out the root cause or the root question or the very beginning of everything really makes sense also when it comes to, as I said, a medical standpoint, because it is going to prevent you from having those symptoms again, because you are treating the root cause. You're treating the very origin of your problem. Without a clear purpose, you have no foundation on which you base decisions, allocate your time, and use your resources. You will tend to make choices based on circumstances, pressures, and your mood at that moment. I do want to point out mood, and something that I've read about and also had to learn through personal experiences. Making decisions when you're in a really, really good mood and making decisions when you're in a really, really bad mood, they are not going to be good decisions. When you're really well off, in a really good mood, you might be making very optimistic decisions, make optimistic choices, which in the end are not necessarily gonna be good either, because maybe this leads you to, I don't know, like there's multiple outcomes, really depends on the situation, but you might have just been way too optimistic. On the other hand, you might also be just way too pessimistic when you are in a really, really bad mood, which is in the end also not that of an amazing thing, which might also lead to certain situations you just do not want to be in, period. People who don't know their purpose try to do too much, and that causes stress, fatigue, and conflict. Knowing your purpose gives meaning to your life. We were made to have meaning. This is why people try dubious methods like astrology or physics to discover it. When life has meaning, you can bear almost anything. Without it, nothing is bearable. Without God, life has no purpose, and without purpose, life has no meaning. Without meaning, life has no significance or hope. Which I, by the way, really believe in. Maybe not necessarily the God part, but this really depends on things. But whatever gives you purpose, also God, and I've actually talked about that before, and I think it is actually a very, very great and viable option, and I see why it just makes sense. Maybe I am going to elaborate on that throughout the summary, but having a purpose and just knowing why you're here and knowing what to do with your life is eventually going to make everything better. I just think about those days where I just do not really know what to do. But if you know what to do, if you have a purpose, if you know what you are supposed to be doing, there is no day that you're going to spend not knowing what to do, because you can work on that purpose, or if you're exhausted, you can rest in order to have more energy for this purpose. So whatever the fuck you're doing, it is going to be fine. And whatever the fuck you're doing, it is going to be great. And it is going to serve your purpose, and ultimately it is going to let you feel fulfilled, which is something that I have been struggling with really a lot over past, I think especially year. Over the past year, it really struck me, being out of school, having a ton of time, and just, well, might also be the lack of a goal and just, living life and doing whatever. Anyway, I think having purpose and, having fulfillment in life, however you get there, it's, there's probably also going to be a mental part to that, which could also be served by having purpose. Very important, and I think quite crucial for being happy. So your beliefs leading to your behaviors, leading to what you become or who you become, by Rick Warren. Challenging cultural norms. Well, you know what? I'm actually going to end the episode there. Or am I? Yes, I am. I really, truly, dearly hope that I've been able to share certain things that were of value to you. And I am hopefully going to see you the next time. So, bye-bye.